Hello and welcome to the wonderful world of old sheet music. I'm your host Nicholas Carroll. Tonight we are looking at Petite Mazurka by Ella Ketterer. And this piece on the front here tells us that it was 35 cents, so you know it's going to be a fairly old piece. It is Theodore Presser. We briefly mentioned about that before. It was a publishing company in Philadelphia. It still exists. It's one of the oldest publishing companies in the world that's still around and is the oldest in the United States. So here's our art. There's not really a whole lot to it. It has kind of like a Frank Lloyd Wright kind of Art Deco kind of graphic, I would call it. And this piece is published in 1941, so it is fairly old, like we said. The composer Ella Ketterer is not one that is particularly famous, but if you do some digging, you do have to do a good bit of digging, actually. You can find that she was born in Camden, New Jersey, and wrote several pieces for Theodore Presser catalog, all kind of educational, focused on piano teaching. On the back here, there is an advertisement, like many of these had, for other educational pieces that a teacher would see and buy after buying this one. These other ones aren't by her. They're all by a bunch of other composers. So it's interesting to me how many there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different pieces. And then there's this one, of course, 10 pieces by all different composers, all of them contemporary with one another, publishing piano teaching pieces. Of course, nowadays, every piano teaching piece, there's like, I don't know, maybe 5 people who write them. And you could probably name them all: Helen Marley, Melody Bober, Philip Kebvrin. You know, they're all written by the same people. But back then there was such a market that there was that many different composers just from one company. So that's pretty amazing how different that time period would have been as far as piano popularity goes. When you think about that, it makes sense that that's when all these piano companies were existing and making pianos as well. So it was kind of this rich market at that time. So Petite Mazurka here, it does look like somebody had played this. There's some handwriting in it. It says rhythm ! Written in pencil at the top, so I guess the student wasn't following the rhythm correctly. A few other little penciled in notations that say soft. A few chords are circled that they must have missed, and then there's a thing here they wrote in handwritten that says, I believe it says faster, yeah. When you look at it closely, you can see that it says faster. And there's not actually any indication in the music itself to go faster. That would have been just like the teacher's preference, I suppose, telling their student they need to go faster there because that's what they wanted. But there isn't any notation from the composer to do that. This piece looks like it's really focused on teaching grace notes. There's a whole bunch of them throughout this. So I'm thinking that that was probably, there's one here and here and, you know, kind of throughout. I'm thinking that's probably what this was trying to teach in particular, other than, of course, maybe the mazurka being a type of dance, usually in 3/4. Most people who've heard of mazurkas know them from Chopin because he wrote tons of those. So originally a Polish dance, but of course, because they became popular because of Chopin, lots of people wrote them. So, you know, this Ella Ketterer certainly wasn't Polish, but she still wrote mazurka. So let's see what it sounds like. So that is Petite Mazurka by Ella Ketterer. It was a little more difficult than some of the other teaching pieces I've played. A lot of them have been late intermediate, maybe. This is probably late intermediate, early advanced, because there's a lot of jumping, a lot of pedaling, a lot of changing tempo, some rules, you know, stuff that's a little bit more advanced. So it did have a key change as well. Overall, I thought it was a pretty nice piece. I thought it had a cool melody. I liked the middle section was in a different key. It was soft. It changed the character and made it more interesting, I thought. So kind of the ABA form that you would expect in a full-fledged mazurka. The only reason it's petite is because it's short. It's only 3 pages long, so it's not really referring to it being easier, just shorter. So that is Petite Mazurka.